Hey, stop right there! What are you doing in this area?
I'm walking to my car. Is there a problem, officer?
Yeah, there's a problem. You match the description of a suspect we're looking for.
A suspect?
For what?
I literally just left the restaurant.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back now.
Hold on, what did I do? You can't just grab me like that.
Get on the ground, now.
Are you serious right now? I'm an attorney.
Dispatch possible suspect detained. Subject is non-compliant. Send backup.
This is exactly what racial profiling looks like.
That is the suspect.
The body camera was already recording. At 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday night, Officer Caleb Brownski approached a black man standing on a downtown sidewalk outside a brick-faced building, and within seconds, the questions started. What was he doing here? Where had he come from? Why was he in this part of the city at this hour? The man tried to explain. He had just left the courthouse after a late filing. His car was 20 feet away. His briefcase was in it. But Brownski cut him off. He fit a description. The man's disbelief was visible on camera, his expression wide-eyed and direct, his mouth open mid-sentence as he tried to reason with an officer who had already stopped listening. When Brownski moved to force him against the brick wall, the man's body registered the contact before his mind could process it. What happened in the next 3 minutes was captured entirely on Brownski's own body camera, and what that footage revealed would not just end Brownski's career, it would expose something that had been building in his personnel file for 12 years, and that 3 false malfunction reports had been specifically designed to keep invisible. Before we go any further, drop your city or country in the comments right now, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button before this video ends. You need to see how this unfolds completely. Damian Vaugh had put in another long day. The 31-year-old criminal defense attorney had been at his desk since 7:30 that morning, reviewing case files, preparing motions, and navigating the specific, exhausting combination of legal precision and human stakes that made his work the kind that didn't stop when the office closed. By 9:30 p.m., he had one task remaining, a motion that needed to be dropped at the courthouse clerk's office before the filing deadline expired at 10 o'clock. He grabbed his briefcase, locked his office, and drove the 6 blocks to the courthouse in the particular focused calm of someone who was almost done with a very long Thursday. Damian had built everything he had through that kind of focus. 7 years of criminal defense work, each year more demanding than the one before, had produced a reputation that his peers described as relentless and his clients described as the difference between a conviction and a second chance. He was lean and medium-built, close-cropped hair, the kind of physical composure that courtrooms reinforce over years of standing in them, still, direct, present. That Thursday evening, he was wearing a dark hoodie over dress pants and dress shoes. Courthouse air conditioning ran cold, and he kept a hoodie in his car for late filings, a habit that had nothing to do with anything except the temperature of a building he visited 3 times a week. He dropped the motion at 9:44 p.m. He pushed through the courthouse door at 9:46. His car was 20 feet away on the downtown sidewalk. He was thinking about nothing more consequential than the drive home when he heard the voice behind him. Officer Caleb Brownski had been on patrol for 2 hours. Earlier that evening, dispatch had circulated information about an armed assault suspect, a heavy-set black male in his mid-40s, red cap, gray sweatpants, last seen 6 blocks north on foot. Brownski had been searching the broader area when he turned onto the downtown block and saw Damian stepping out of the courthouse in a dark hoodie. Damian was walking toward his car. He was thinking about nothing. He had done nothing. He had just filed a legal motion in a courthouse that was visible in the body camera footage from the moment Brownski approached, the security sign above the door readable, the timestamp on the filing receipt in Damian's jacket pocket verifiable in under 60 seconds if anyone had thought to ask. Nobody asked. Brownski called out for Damian to stop. Damian turned, slightly surprised, not alarmed. the expression of a man who has no reason to be alarmed and is about to discover that this is not the same as having no reason to be stopped. The officer walked closer. The body camera was recording from Brownski's chest. The blue and red lights from the parked cruiser on the street behind them strobed against the brick wall. And what happened in the next 3 minutes, every word, every movement, every moment of Damien Vaugh's face turning toward the camera with the specific wide-eyed expression of a man who needs the record to see exactly what is being done to him, was captured in the kind of high-definition clarity that made the 3 prior malfunction reports sitting in Brownski's personnel file the most consequential documents in the department's recent history. Damien Vaux did not grow up expecting to become a lawyer. He grew up in a neighborhood where lawyers were the people who showed up after something had already gone wrong, faces in suits behind tables, speaking a language that sounded like English but operated on rules nobody in his immediate world had been taught. He watched that dynamic long enough and closely enough to understand something that most people arrived at much later, if they arrived at it at all. The law was not neutral. It worked for the people who understood it and against the people who didn't. That observation, made before he turned 15, became the most consequential decision of his life, not to avoid the law, but to learn it well enough to change what it did to people who looked like him. 7 years of criminal defense work had built that decision into something real. Clients who came to him with the specific, exhausted helplessness of people who had been processed by a system without anyone explaining the processing, they left with someone who could explain it, navigate it, and sometimes beat it entirely. His reputation was not loud. It was the kind that traveled through the specific networks of people who needed what he offered and had learned through the occasional disappointing experience elsewhere that Damien Vaughn was the attorney who actually showed up prepared. That Thursday night, he was almost done. Motion filed at 9:44, receipt in his jacket pocket, courthouse door at 9:46. The downtown street was quiet. The kind of quiet that arrives after business hours when the foot traffic thins and the buildings hold their light without sharing it. His car was 20 feet away. The drive home was 12 minutes. He was thinking about nothing when the blue and red lights appeared at the end of the block. He turned around, and the Thursday that had been almost over became something else entirely. The bolo had gone out at 8:52 p.m. Armed assault, suspect described as a heavy-set black male, mid-40s, red baseball cap, gray sweatpants, last seen on foot 6 blocks north of the courthouse, moving away from the scene. The description was specific enough to have a direction and a clothing detail and an approximate age, specific enough, in other words, that the person it described was not interchangeable with every black man in the downtown corridor. It described a particular person, a heavy-set man in his mid-40s, in a red cap, in gray sweatpants, moving north on foot. Damien Vaughn was 31 years old, lean, in a dark hoodie over dress pants and dress shoes, standing on the sidewalk outside a courthouse, moving toward his car. He was not heavyset. He was not in his mid-40s. He was not wearing a red cap or gray sweatpants. He was not moving north. He was not moving at all. He had stopped when the blue and red lights appeared and was now standing with the particular stillness of someone who has nothing to hide and is waiting for the situation to resolve itself through the simple application of observable facts. Brownski approached him anyway. The body camera recorded the first question at 9:47:03. Brownski asked what Damien was doing in this area. Damien's expression, captured from Brownski's chest height, slightly upward angle, the brick building behind him, was the specific combination of surprise and confusion that arrives when a reasonable person is asked an unreasonable question in a reasonable tone. He answered it anyway. He explained the filing. He He gestured toward the courthouse behind him, the security sign above the door visible in the footage without anyone needing to point at it. He said his car was 20 feet away. He said his briefcase was in it. He said he was an attorney and had just finished a late courthouse filing and was going home. Brownski's expression did not change. He asked where Damien had been before the courthouse. Damien answered. Brownski asked how long he had been in the area. Damien answered that too, with the patient, measured delivery of someone who had spent 7 years in courtrooms where the answer to every question was the truth stated clearly, and who had not yet understood that the questions being asked were not designed to receive answers. They were designed to extend the encounter until the encounter became something else. Damien told Brownski his bar ID was in his briefcase, in the car, 20 feet away, the same car he had been pointing at since the first question, the same 20 feet he had referenced twice, the same briefcase that contained not just the bar ID, but the stamped copy of the motion he had filed 11 minutes earlier, a document with a courthouse timestamp, a clerk's signature, and a case number that would have resolved every question Brownski was asking in the time it took to read the first line. Brownski did not ask to see it. Damien turned slightly and gestured toward the courthouse entrance behind him. The security sign above the door was visible, not partially visible, not visible if you looked carefully, but directly visible in the body camera footage in the wide, unobstructed way that fixed signage on a lit building is visible at night when you are standing 12 feet from it. The sign identified the building. The building identified where Damien had just been. The timestamp on the receipt in his jacket pocket identified when. The entire verification chain was available in under 60 seconds without requiring anyone to move more than 20 feet. Brownski did not look at the sign. This is the moment the stop revealed what it actually was. Not a case of mistaken identity, a genuine mistake made in good faith, corrected when the evidence arrived. The evidence had arrived. The courthouse sign was in the footage. The car was 20 feet away. The bar ID was in the briefcase. Brownski had been given 3 separate verification pathways and had declined all 3 without explanation. The bolo described a heavy-set black male in his mid-40s in a red cap and gray sweatpants. Damien Vaughn was 31 years old, lean, in a dark hoodie over dress pants and dress shoes, standing on the sidewalk outside a courthouse, moving toward his car. He was not heavy-set. He was not in his mid-40s. He was not wearing a red cap or gray sweatpants. He was not moving north. He was not moving at all. He had stopped when the blue and red lights appeared and was now standing with the particular stillness of someone who has nothing to hide and is waiting for the situation to resolve itself through the simple application of observable facts. The stop was never about the description. The description was the language the stop was using. What the stop was actually about was visible in the body camera footage from the first frame. A black man on a downtown street at night, and an officer who had already decided before the first question what that combination meant. Brownski reached for the jacket at 9:51:17. Both hands. The specific two-handed grip of someone who has made a physical decision and is executing it without the intermediate step of announcing it. No instruction to move, no warning that contact was coming, just the sudden closing of hands on fabric and the motion that followed. Damien's body registered the contact before his mind processed it, the way bodies register sudden physical force, a reflexive weight shift, a half step backward that the body camera recorded as the natural response of a person who has just been grabbed without warning and not as resistance, though the distinction would matter considerably in the incident report Brownski filed afterward. The brick wall was 2 steps behind Damien. The body camera caught his face at the moment of contact with the wall, and the image it produced was the one that would appear on every news platform, every civil rights organization's social media account, and every protest sign outside the precinct in the weeks that followed. Wide-eyed, mid-sentence, his mouth open on a word that the audio captured clearly, his own name, his bar association, the courthouse, the filing, the words of a man trying to communicate something critical to someone who had stopped receiving information 4 minutes earlier. The blue and red light from the cruiser strobed against the brick behind him, giving the footage the specific quality of something that looked too constructed to be real and was too documented to be anything other than exactly what it was. 4 use-of-force policy violations, all of them occurring in under 3 minutes. No verbal warning before physical contact, no de-escalation attempt between the credential dismissal and the grab, physical force applied to a subject who had not been lawfully detained, force disproportionate to any threat the body camera showed because the body camera showed no threat at all. The lesson that the brick wall delivered in those 3 minutes is the same one every use-of-force policy is designed to prevent, that the moment an officer substitutes physical control for the verification he has been offered and declined, the encounter is no longer law enforcement. It is something the law was specifically designed to correct, and the camera recording it from 3 feet away was doing exactly what it had been designed to do, regardless of what the malfunction reports in Brodsky's file claimed it had been doing on 3 prior occasions. The footage was on social media within 48 hours, not leaked, shared, by 3 people who had been on the downtown sidewalk that Thursday night and had recorded the last 90 seconds of the encounter on their phones before Brodsky noticed them. The phone recordings captured with the body camera captured from a different angle. Demian's face against the brick wall, the blue and red light, the specific gap between the force being applied and any observable justification for it. The combination of the body camera footage and the phone recordings produced a visual record with no blind spots, no ambiguous angles, and no interpretive room that a subsequent account could occupy. The internal affairs investigation opened on Saturday morning. The investigator assigned to the case pulled Brodsky's personnel file on the first day. The malfunction reports were on page 4, 3 separate incident reports filed across 14 months, each one documenting a use-of-force encounter during which Brodsky's body camera had allegedly failed to record. 3 complaints had been filed against him in connection with those 3 incidents. Each complaint had been reviewed individually. Each had been partially dismissed on the basis that no footage existed to corroborate the complainant's account. The investigator sent all 3 cameras to the department's technical division on Monday morning. The results came back Wednesday. All 3 cameras had been recording, not partially, fully, continuously, with complete audio and video from activation to deactivation on every shift during which Brodsky had claimed malfunction. The technical report used precise language without editorial inflection, the way technical reports do, and stated simply that no hardware or software failure had occurred on any of the 3 dates in question. The malfunction reports were false, all of them. The camera Brodsky had been relying on to fail had never failed once. It had recorded everything on every shift, the 3 prior incidents now retrievable, the footage now entering the investigation as additional exhibits, the complaints that had been partially dismissed on the basis of missing footage now reassembled with the footage that had existed the entire time. The investigator read all 7 complaints in sequence on a Wednesday afternoon. It took her 22 minutes, not because the complaints were brief, they weren't, each one containing the specific, detailed language of people who had filed formal documentation with the specific hope that formal documentation would produce a consequence. But the pattern they produced when laid end to end was so consistent and so clear that the reading accelerated rather than slowed as it progressed. Each complaint confirmed the one before it. Each one added a detail, a location, a demographic, a specific behavior that made the sequence more visible with every page rather than less. 7 complaints, 12 years. 0 pattern findings. Each complaint had been reviewed by a different supervisor. Each supervisor had seen 1 file, not 7 files, 1, the one currently on their desk, reviewed against Brownski's general service record and closed without the specific question that the sequence would have demanded if anyone had been required to ask it. The question was simple. It was the same question the technical division had answered in 3 days about the malfunction reports. It was the question that required nothing more than reading the available documents in the order they occurred and asking what they added up to. Nobody had been required to ask it until Wednesday. The Bolo comparison was entered into the record as a separate exhibit, the original dispatch description beside the body camera footage of Demi and Va, the physical contradictions between them documented in the specific itemized language of an exhibit that did not editorialize because it did not need to. The exhibit made the argument by presenting the facts side by side and allowing the gap between them to speak in the silence between the columns. The consent decree negotiations began the following week. The city's legal team had reviewed the body camera footage, the malfunction report findings, the 7 complaints in sequence, and the Bolo comparison exhibit, and the 4 use of force policy violations documented in under 3 minutes. The board reviewed it in a single session and did not request additional time before issuing its recommendation. The termination was unanimous. The criminal charges followed 8 days later. The district attorney's office had been reviewing the same evidence package simultaneously and had arrived at a charging decision that the malfunction reports made considerably more severe than a use of force case alone would have produced. Assault under color of law, the federal civil rights charge that applied to the brick wall encounter and the 4 policy violations it contained. 3 counts of filing false official reports, 1 for each malfunction report that the technical division had determined was factually false on the date it was filed. The assault charge carried the weight of 1 Thursday night. The false report charges carried the weight of 12 years. 3 prior incidents, 3 protected complaints. 3 times Brownski had written a document claiming the camera had failed and submitted it to a department that had no reason to check and had not checked. He was sentenced 4 months after the charges were filed. The assault conviction produced a suspended sentence with 3 years probation and mandatory community service. The false report convictions, 3 counts consecutive, produced something the suspended sentence alone would not have: a permanent criminal record. The specific transferable consequence that follows a person across every subsequent application, every background check, every moment they write their name on a form that asks whether they have ever been convicted of a crime. Brownski's peace officer certification was revoked the same week the sentence was handed down. He could not work in law enforcement in the state. He could not apply to a neighboring jurisdiction and present the 12 years as an unqualified asset. The certification revocation traveled with the criminal record into every professional context where either one was relevant, which was most of them. Demi and Vaughn's federal civil rights lawsuit settled for $800,000. The figure reflected the body camera footage, the Bolo contradiction, the 4 policy violations, the 7 complaints that established the pattern, and the specific, documented fact that Brownski had filed false reports on 3 prior occasions to prevent footage from corroborating exactly the kind of complaint that Demian had filed on the 19th day after his face was pressed against a brick wall outside a courthouse on a Thursday night. The settlement also reflected something that dollar figures reflect imperfectly but consistently: the specific harm of being a licensed attorney who had just filed a legal motion and was treated on a public sidewalk 20 feet from his own car as a suspect whose credentials were not worth 60 seconds of verification. The consent decree was signed 6 weeks after the settlement. The department's obligations under it were specific and enforceable: mandatory cumulative complaint review after 2 complaints against any officer within a 24-month period, technical verification of all body camera malfunction reports within 72 hours of filing, revised use of force protocols requiring documented de-escalation attempts before any physical contact with a subject who has not been lawfully detained, and an independent civilian oversight panel with genuine investigative authority and direct access to personnel files. The oversight panel's first act was to request the complete complaint records for every officer in the department with more than 5 years of service. The review took 3 months. It identified 4 additional officers whose complaint patterns, read as sequences, warranted supervisory action that individual review had never produced. Brownski's 12-year career ended not with a single catastrophic decision, but with the accumulated weight of a pattern that the department's institutional architecture had been designed, whether intentionally or not, to keep invisible. The false reports had been the active component of that invisibility. The specific, deliberate choice to ensure that the camera, which had the capacity to make the pattern undeniable, would be reported as absent on the occasions when its presence would have mattered most. 3 times that choice had worked. The complaints had been partially dismissed. The pattern had remained invisible. The career had continued. The 4th time, the camera had been recording. It had always been recording, and the footage it produced, Demian's face against the brick wall, wide-eyed, mid-sentence, the blue and red light behind him, the courthouse security sign visible in the background of a body camera that had never once malfunctioned, was the document that made every prior document legible in a way that 12 years of individual reviews had never been asked to make them. The camera designed to protect him had protected the truth instead, and the truth, once it exists in high definition on a body camera that was supposedly broken, does not require anyone's permission to remain visible. If this story held you from the first blue and red light to the last line of that consent decree, if it made you think about the 7 complaints sitting in a folder somewhere, about the malfunction reports that protected a pattern for 12 years, about what changes when an investigator finally sits down and reads the file from the beginning, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stories like Demian Vaughn's exist because 3 people on a downtown sidewalk had their phones out and because a camera that had been reported as broken was recording perfectly. We tell them because the people whose complaints are in folders that nobody has read in sequence deserve to know that the pattern is visible when someone decides to look at all of it at once. If you want more stories about racial profiling, institutional failure, and the people who forced the record to be read, hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and tap that notification bell so you never miss a video. We post stories exposing racial profiling, police misconduct, and the moments when the camera told the truth that the report tried to bury. Every story is documented, every pattern is visible, and the camera is never as broken as the report claims it is.